New location today because we've in fact moved house, and just bear with me with the whole lighting camera setup because quite frankly this is my first time testing it. I'm playing around with a bunch of different lights. We're going to see what happens. We're going to make it a little bit better just so video quality is a little bit nicer. So firstly, I'm sorry for the hiatus. Obviously moving house, a lot of things going on. Big PC not set up means bloody hard to edit videos, but we're back now and we're hopefully going to do some good things. And actually GainsByBrains is going to help us today, where we're going to look at my effective glute building workout, my tips and exercise selection, because this is actually a really good opportunity for me to elaborate on a few things she's speaking about, whilst also actually redirecting you to a video I've recently done with Taylor, where I do a glute tier list and actually not only explain why I think some movements may be better or worse, but also a few tips and tricks when it comes to glute training in there. So if you haven't already seen that video, I would definitely encourage you to have a gander. And like with all my videos, if at any point you actually just like something I'm saying or just tolerate me in general, I would very much appreciate it if you did like the video and also subscribe to the channel, as it does mean a lot to me.
It's an 8-week program. I'm doing the advanced level. So every 4 weeks our schedule changes because you want to do the same thing for multiple weeks. I get questions about that, why we repeat the same thing over and over again. That is because you want to make sure that you not tweak too many variables.
I'm glad you mentioned this because it's something I want to actually address. I have a few clients sometimes that come to me when we start working together and say, Harry, why aren't things changing every week? Because quite frankly, if your goal is to get stronger or build muscle or really improve in the realm of resistance training and your coach is changing things every single week, I'd probably look at a new coach. Good programming is actually pretty boring, and in that you have to do things over and over again to not only get better at movement patterns, but also to progressively overload. We know that progressive overload is a byproduct of you having progressed. So if you're building muscle, you're probably going to be progressive overloading to then show that you've built muscle. But how can you progressive overload and monitor and track accurate progression and improvements if you keep changing what you're doing? A lot of people used to say, oh, you don't want your body to adapt and get used to things. No, you do. Adaptation is what we're looking for. We want adaptation to occur. It's a good thing. Me, personally, I don't really change my workout routine or program unless one of two things happens. Either my goals have changed or something stops working. Do I apply that same logic to my clients? Not necessarily, because again, I'm probably a bit more focused on optimization, whereas with them, enjoyment might be a bit more important than it is for me. So for clients, we might look at 12-week training blocks where we'll do largely similar things for 12 weeks, monitor progressive overload, and at the end of that, make changes. Remove what's not working, remove what they might not like, keep what is working, keep what they do like. Throughout that, you might have minor changes. If there's a movement that isn't getting on with you, or you're not getting on with it, I should say, we might remove it and swap it. Intensity changes, volume changes, things like that. But larger changes typically do come at, let's say, the 12-week mark, give or take. So stop changing your workout routine. Repetition is key, and boring is probably better. As always, TFNL coaching is linked down below in the description and maybe even the comment section too. Have a gander, fill in the application form, takes 2 minutes. I'll drop you an email and we'll hop on a free Zoom consultation call where we can waffle, get to know each other, talk about things, waffle about things, and discuss whether coaching is something that might appeal to you. If it does, fantastic, we can go from there. If it doesn't, no worries, we can just chat about life and just waffle and have a great time. So as always, that is linked down below in the comment section and also in the description too.
So for me to do unilateral work and prioritizing unilateral work by doing it first helps a lot with minimizing imbalances or preventing imbalances from happening in the first place. So as always, we start with our weaker side and then we match to work with the stronger side just to make sure, again, that we are not making the imbalance any bigger if we have any.
Imbalances are a big thing many of us will face and probably are facing right now. And one of the best things here to actually help correct imbalances is actually probably patience. So unilateral work is definitely a good thing to implement, and there are a couple of ways you can go about it. Firstly, imbalances do typically correct themselves over time, a long time. If you are going to do unilateral work, I would definitely recommend what she is recommending here, which is do your weaker side first. And if you have an imbalance, then go straight into the stronger side and match reps. If you don't have an imbalance and are relatively even, make sure you're resting between sides. Because if you don't rest and go straight into it, breathing is probably going to be a limiting factor, which means an external variable that wasn't present during the first set is now present during the second set, which could encourage imbalances. So if you have an imbalance, straight into it. If you don't have an imbalance, rest between sides to prevent imbalances from potentially forming. I've mentioned many times before, although I hate the split squat as a movement, it's also a bloody good movement. And one of the things I like about what GainsByBrains is doing here is she's holding on to something with her resting hand. One of the big limiting factors, as I mentioned in my glute video, when it comes to the split squat is lack of stability. A lot of people do struggle with the balance, but if you hold on to something with your resting hand as she is doing here, stability now becomes less of a limiting factor, thus actually making this movement even better for glute development, because the glutes, being the target musculature, are more likely to be the failing point versus something like stability. You want to fail the movement because the muscles can't do anymore, not because you keep falling over. The back extension, or glute bias back extension, I would say, in which you're adopting a slight knee bend here, is a great movement. One thing I would really say is if you're looking at hamstring bias, and obviously you're adopting straighter legs to do so, using a weight is fantastic. But if you're shifting emphasis to the glutes and adopting a bent knee throughout this movement to then, like I said, shift more emphasis to the glutes, one thing I would really recommend is implementing a band. Again, I spoke about this in my glute video, but with the band, as you go through the movement, the band tension is obviously increasing, therefore resistance is increasing as the glutes are going to be shortening. It seems like, from a lot of what I've read, the glutes have their best leverage to extend the hip in the shortened position. Therefore, loading that shortened position with more tension, aligning very much with the resistance profile of a band, might actually work better for the glutes. So think hamstrings, free weight, glutes, potentially banded. Can you still experience incredible glute gains using free weights? Absolutely. I'm just saying, if you really want to optimize and nitpick that 1%, the resistance profile of a band kind of seems to align well with the strength curve of the glutes. But you don't have to, it's not the end of the world.
Is the upper part of the glutes, because I want to build that shelf. When I walk around, I want to have that upper shelf just living its own life. The way to create that best is by targeting the medius specifically, because that is located on the upper side of the glutes.
That's actually really valid. When people often say, I want to develop my upper glutes, what they really mean there is developing their glute med, which is actually a muscle of the glutes, which is commonly neglected because it's not heavily worked through things like RDLs, back extensions, split squats, etc., etc. It's more worked through abduction, which is where you're doing this basically. So as we're seeing here, like a machine abductor, fantastic. Another one you can implement is a glute med kickback, something which you're kicking back at that slight angle here, which again aligns with the abduction, which is what you want to see when looking at the glute meds. Do you have to lean forward? No. Do you have to sit upright? No. Honestly, I'd say whether you want to lean forward or sit upright is completely up to you and what feels best for you. There is a chance here that this can lead to a bit of piriformis inflammation, which can contribute to sciatica, but that's very person to person dependent. If that does happen to you and it feels uncomfortable, try leaning forward, try sitting upright and adjusting the movement to see what feels best. If none of those work, then consider a glute med kickback, similar to what we're doing here, but we want to kick more out and away from you rather than directly back. Again, not quite as stable, but if it allows you to actually train the glute meds effectively without piriformis inflammation or sciatica holding you back, it's probably pretty good.
Will help with creating that stretch in my glutes in the same way as that I did with the Bulgarian split squat. So that is what I'm doing, and then I make sure that I maintain mechanical tension on my glutes throughout the entire set.
I don't like the use of mechanical tension there. Mechanical tension is not something that you will maintain on a muscle when doing a movement. It's something the muscles will experience. There's a difference between tension and mechanical tension. When you're doing a movement where you're kind of, let's say, not resting in between, no dead stop, just go, 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 not fully shortening, maybe not fully lengthening to keep tension there, whatever it may be, depending on the movement, tension would be high throughout the muscle. For mechanical tension to be high, you would have to be training the muscle to, if not close to failure. Tension is likely going to be what the muscles might be experiencing when doing a movement through contraction, stretch, so eccentric, concentric, whereas mechanical tension is more something they're going to experience depending on the intensity in which they're worked. Tension and mechanical tension, two different things. Mechanical tension is a good thing. We love mechanical tension. It's a big driver of hypertrophy, and we like hypertrophy. Whether you want to be a bodybuilder or simply build your bottom, mechanical tension is going to be key. And what we want to do to really milk that, train bloody hard and progressive overload. As a whole, it's a solid video. Do I prefer my glute video? I absolutely do, because I'm biased. But a lot of what GainsByBrains is saying throughout this video is actually very valid and very true. It's just I wanted to elaborate on a few things to kind of explain them a little bit further, and also use this as an opportunity to redirect people to my glute video if they haven't already seen it, as I think it's bloody good. Like with all my videos, this is simply my opinion, and I'd appreciate hearing yours in the comment section below, so let me know. What is your #1 glute training tip? Thank you for tolerating me. Thank you for tolerating my waffle in a new environment, and thank you for tolerating the video.